And let me read the questions to you first before we begin working on these three images. Do current color saturation levels and the color in general contribute or detract from the subject of the image? Let's go back to that first image there. Remember how I talked about the contrasting colors being a potential problem? That's what I'm actually talking about in that question. Would I prefer the image if the tone shifted a little towards yellow or blue? Or would I prefer the image if the tone shifted a little towards green or magenta red? Would a color treatment, a specific combination of colors, or a black and white treatment enhance the image? Would more contrast between the lighter and darker colors enhance the image? So let's take a peek at this first one. Let's talk about these questions kind of together, and we'll also separate them too. Do current color saturation levels in the color contribute or detract from the subject of the image? If I was to leave this as a color image, I'm not happy about the saturation of these two colors, the green and the orange. So let's go ahead and play with that, because I still haven't made up my mind if I want to get rid of those colors altogether and turn this into a black and white. All right, we're going to do a new adjustment layer. We're going to do hue saturation. Okay, and I'm going to be selective. So I'm going to select red because red and orange are related here, and I'm going to select his hat there, and I'm going to dial it up just a tad. Okay, and I don't like what's happening to his face when I do that. All right. Alrighty then. So I don't like what happens at all. I'm going to take that back to its original color. Let's talk about the master one and go saturation that direction instead. Brightening up everything together. Okay. Well, it seems a little happier and more lively, like the action captured here. I still feel like this is really an argument, so I think I'm not going to keep this adjustment. I think I am going to pursue black and white, so I'm just going to grab this and toss it into the trash can. Again, playing with these questions to investigate them a little bit, as well as making solid decisions. That's the approach here. Would I prefer the image tone shifted a little towards yellow or blue, or green versus magenta or red? I actually like the white balance I see in here and the tonal quality. And would a color treatment, a specific combination of colors like black and white, be something I'd be interested in? Yes, definitely. I'm going to be looking into that. And would the contrast between the lighter and darker colors enhance the image? We'll get to that after we go with our black and white treatment. So let's go ahead and create a new layer with all of these adjustments made by selecting Control, Alt, Shift, and E, or if you're on a Mac, Command, Option, Shift, and E. And that just creates a copy of everything here on its own layer, so we don't lose any of our adjustments and can always go back. Now that we have this, we can go to Enhance and convert to black and white. All right, there's a couple of different options here right off the bat. And I suggest stepping through each one of them, even though some of them are not made for, say, a portrait picture. They provide different effects that might appeal to you, so it's something to consider. All right, I really kind of like this portrait one, but I can see that I'm going to guess this is probably a red color. The reds are just a little bit too dark, and so I'm going to play with that red slider right off the bat here and see what happens when I lighten it up just a little bit, trying to pull out his face just a bit. Again, always working towards pulling the subject out. And now this is awfully dark, this green here. I wonder if I play with the green and the blue a little bit. It really blows out that background, and I don't want to do that, and the highlights get lost in his face and whatnot, so I'm not interested in doing that. And how about the blue? It's kind of a nice tricky balance between that, the highlights in the background. Let's play with contrast just a little bit. Oh, interesting. Okay, that is really playing with the green quite a bit. Alright, if I dial down the contrast and then take the red up just a tad bit more, what happens? Okay, it looks a little creepy is what happens. So I want to play with that just a little bit more. Okay, this is one method for creating a black and white, and I'm not actually satisfied with it, so I'm not going to accept this particular black and white. I'm going to try something different. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this, and I'm going to try doing a new layer adjustment, And I'm going to do a gradient map. Alright, I prefer this method just a little bit because I can make warmer colors, and I like the fact that it doesn't mess with my values so much, meaning the lights and the darks of the colors themselves. And this particular fix, because it's an adjustment, it's something that I can go back and fix later on, and I actually can get rid of this middle layer now because it's not something that's applied specifically to that. And I like that because I can play around with the adjustments quite a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to click on the color itself. I want something that's a little bit warmer than just black. So I'm going to click on this point right here. And then the color, let's move this aside. And I'm going to select something in the oranges up here because really what I want to go for is something brownish and darker brown. But I want something warm. I don't want it too light either, so I want it to stay kind of darker so I have a little better contrast. So I'll just play around in here until I find kind of what I'm looking for, and I kind of like that. I say okay. Now I can add a midpoint here if I want to. Okay, and I've already selected that, so let's go take a look at that color. And I'm probably going to go something a little bit warmer. Okay, kind of like overall what's going on here. And I like the fact that I have now some sliders to play with. Alright, I kind of like the look and feel of this one. Let's see, do I want this to be a little darker now that I have that brown? I'm thinking maybe take the shadows down just a tad bit more. Okay, gosh, I really like that. Play around with this color just a bit, just to make sure I'm really 100%, because this is one of those tricky art things, and so, and you know, preference based, so you have to kind of play around with this yourself. Okay, what I'm looking at right now too is I don't want to lose these cool little catch lights in his eyes by my color choices, so, and my light and dark choices here. So that looks pretty good, and it's a nice kind of warm chocolatey gray, and I like it. I like it a lot. Just want to play though and just see if that's what I'm satisfied with, and I think I am. I just really like that. Okay, so done with that. Say okay, accept the change, and we're good to go. That's awesome. Okay, now there's one other way to go about this that I want to show you with color treatments, because this question is it's actually way more loaded than it sounds, because there's so many different options with Photoshop Elements for making a black and white. So we're going to do one more little trick here. Okay, go back to new layer, adjustment layer, and that gradient map. Okay, gives us a black and white. Now go ahead and accept that. We're also going to deselect the visibility here of our copy that we made, and I want to go between this new adjustment of the gradient map and the last adjustment made. So I'm going to select that last adjustment, and now I'm going to go up and create a new layer, adjustment layer for hue and saturation. Okay, alright, and so now we can play with the colors that are in the image. Remember, now we've turned off the visibility here of this particular copy, and we've also taken away our gradient map, which we made for a nice brown, black and white. Okay, this is a different adjustment that we can make. We've got hue and saturation underneath a gradient map that's black and white. Okay, so everything is revealed through on this adjustment. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at the green. I'm going to select this dropper here, click in there. Now it sees it as cyan. That's interesting. Okay, so let's play with that though. Let's adjust the brightness here. Okay, now our eyes are attracted to brighter colors, so that's something to keep in mind, but I kind of like brightening up a little bit. I think so much dark makes it heavy, and I kind of want to adjust the balance of this picture a bit. Okay, so I like the way that it's lightened up a bit. Okay, let's go look at the reds. Okay, I'm going to select his hat here, and What if I lighten that up just a little bit? Okay, I like that, but it also lightens up his face. So I want to be careful about doing that. I think I'm going to avoid that, in fact. Okay, and let's look at the overall. If we desaturated the color, what does that do to it? Okay, no. And if we saturate the color, what does that do? Okay, let's leave that. Okay, thinking about the blues in his pants. Okay, that sees it as green. That's also interesting. It's always interesting to me how the tool itself views these colors. Now, again, playing with this, I'm looking at the adjustments that are being made here, but I'm also paying really close attention to his face because I don't want to lose any detail and I don't want to lose any of the brightness. Okay, and I'm thinking about his eyes as well. Okay, I do like this lighter. Let's see what happens with his eyes. I'm not sure what color is being reflected. Oh, it is yellow. Okay, that's interesting. I had a sneaking suspicion, but you never know. All right. If we lighten those up just... Oh, that's interesting. It's lightening both his hat and his... That makes sense. Orange has yellow. Okay. Okay. So I like how the adjustments have been affecting him, all right? And I like it doesn't take away from the background. And I also like how I lightened up his clothing a little bit to draw your eye in, but it's not the brightest thing. His face is the brightest thing. So I really like the impact of this. It's kind of really bringing out the best of my image here without arguing in terms of those colors, especially contrasting colors. So I'm going to accept this change. Now, this is a really cool thing. I've played around with how this image looks in terms of its colors here. And let me turn off this gradient map. So it looks really gross this way, right? But I've prepared it and I did it underneath the gradient map so it looked the way I wanted it to. And one thing I can do is take that other gradient map, slide it above, and add my color to it. And so the brightness that I created through that hue adjustment still reflects through in that gradient map, and I like this. I think it's so warm. So I'm gonna stick with this. Again, this is personal preference. You may want to do the simple black and white. That's perfect. It might work really well with your image. Or you might want to go a gradient with color, or you might want to do the combination of hue saturation, black and white gradient, and then a gradient with color, which I've done here. All right, let's move on to the next image in the same set of questions. Do current color saturation levels and the color in general contribute or detract from the subject of the image? I think this image is a little too blue. It's truer white and it's brought out the clarity, but I've lost some saturation of red and yellow that I want to bring back. Would I prefer if the image was tone shifted towards yellow or blue? Obviously, that question was sort of answered in the previous one. I need a little more yellow. Would it be better if it was tone shifted towards green or magenta? Well, I'm going to bring out the red. I don't know that it needs to be tone shifted really, but I do want to bring out these other colors. And would a color treatment, a specific combination of colors like the black and white we just did, enhance the image? And I don't think so. What I really love about this image are all of the native colors, and so I just want to enhance those a little bit. And would more contrast between the lighter and darker colors enhance the image? I think by changing the yellow and the red, we're going to get quite a bit of contrast. So I think that will take care of what I'm worried about here, what I want to bring out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to go ahead and select a new adjustment layer for hue and saturation. And now I'm going to go down to reds, use my dropper. I'm going to select one of these red areas, and then I'm going to dial up the saturation just a little bit, not too much, because this can really overdo it quickly. All right, this is cool. Let's check the visibility of that. Wow, that makes a huge difference. I love it. Okay, now let's go down to yellow. And I'm thinking something in, well, actually I know that this tree has a little yellow in it. Yep, okay. Let's dial up the saturation of that just a little. Oh yeah. Wow, that's really awesome. Okay, let's check again the visibility. When I check the difference, now one looks really great compared to the colors. Oh, I just love that adjustment. Okay, very happy with this. Wouldn't want to change anything. Think that the contrast is it's a good contrast. It's in balance. I like it. Okay. I think the only other thing would be something with the sky. And like I said, I think the only way to get that is probably with a composite, and that's fine. Actually, we could adjust it. Okay, I'm going to bring in blue with another change because I'm thinking of colors here and the blue and how I want that blue to look. So, but we'll do it with masking. We're going to do another layer, new adjustment layer. And I think we're going to go with levels on this one. Okay. And we're going to be masking out all of this bottom stuff. So don't worry about what this looks like. Let's just look at the top here and think about the blue. Okay. First of all, I'm going to darken the whole master set here and see what happens to the sky. Okay. Got lots more in the sky now. I'm not going to worry about what's going on down here. Let's go look at blue. Drag our sliders a bit. Dialing in that blue. Okay, now that looks way more blue to me. That's awesome. Okay. I know it doesn't look awesome altogether, but this is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to select and I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go ahead and invert this mask again. So let's go ahead and select the mask, Command I or Control I if you're on a PC to invert it. Grab our paintbrush tool, make sure white is selected, and I'm going to make that paintbrush a lot larger. Okay, and I'm going to apply my change just to the sky. Just want to get some more of that detail of the sky. It's beautiful with all those clouds. Okay. And what do I think about? Oh yeah, that's probably, well, is that good or bad? To think about that a little bit. Adds a little depth. Yeah, I kind of like it. Okay. Now my impression is that it might be just a little bit too purple. So I'm going to open up that adjustment again, and I'm going to go to red. Okay. Play with that just a little bit. And see, I want it to be more harmonious. I've got the yellows and the reds really bright, so I want to play with this just a bit to bring out the sky, but also make it a good color. Okay. Yeah, a little red is better. Okay, let's take a look. Back down at blue, how does a little yellow in there? In the sky, does it make it look more angry? Is it a good improvement at all? Okay, now I want to go back and see what it looks like without my adjustment altogether. Oh wow. Okay, actually that's really good. I like it. Although I'm not happy with it kind of sloshed over here, so I want to fix that. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's go fix that. We're going to swap colors down here so that black's on top, and we're going to paint out where we accidentally painted in. Okay, there we go. Get a nice edge along there. Okay, once more. Oh, I just love that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, another thing I like to do just to make sure I haven't just overdone everything is I like to open up the window for history now and again and go back and look at my original and see what all of the changes have done for me. So I go back up to the top of my history to the very original image that I opened, and then I can slide all the way down to the last adjustment I made and select that and see what's happened. It's like, am I really bringing out the best in this image? And I think I am. I really do like that. It's very dramatic. It's awesome. I love that. Okay, these changes are good. I'm keeping them. All right. All right, now let's talk about the colors for this particular image. Do the saturation levels and the color contribute or detract from the subject? Well, there's not a whole lot of color here, and we already brought out the red just with a light adjustment. Do I want there to be a little more yellow? Perhaps. So that would be something I'd think about. So shifting it over to yellow might be something I'd want to do. And what about a color treatment? No, I like the drama here. I suppose if I did a color treatment, I'd probably want to make it look grungier still. So that would be probably something I'd try. But otherwise, there's no treatment that comes to mind that I'd like to apply to this. And would more contrast between the lighter and darker colors enhance the image? We've already played so much with light and dark and shadows on this image, and every time I have thought that it wasn't such a great change, or at least that was my personal preference. And so my inclination is to say, no, I'm not even going to try playing with that. So the only thing I'm thinking of is looking at yellows, because I see some yellows in here and I'm thinking, well, what if I brought those out just a little bit? So that's the one thing with this image that I think I'd like to try in terms of colors. So layers, new adjustment layer, hue and saturation. I'm going to try yellow, and this looks kind of yellowy to me, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to play with the saturation just a tad. Oh yes, do like that. I like that a lot. Okay, because it brings out again some of that grunginess, because it seems like yellowy green, probably moss. This is up on the Washington coast at Cape Disappointment, so I'm thinking that that is pretty cool. So let's take a look at that fix. Oh yes. Oh yeah, that gives a lot of warmth and character to this. I love it. That's cool. All right, so I'm satisfied with that change. Now it's time to switch gears and think about the image in terms of structure.